a couple days before, I think it was 2 days before the end of the climate negotiations, I was invited to a meeting with former Vice President Gore and the leaders of a number of the biggest environmental organizations in the United States. And Gore was going to address the entire international community later that day. And we're having a meeting and we're talking about the politics of what are happening. I felt so overwhelmed in that meeting, and not because I was with a bunch of CEOs of environmental groups that felt very highly of themselves, nor because I was in the room with Vice President Gore. I felt overwhelmed because I had spent 2 weeks with young people from around the world who have a lot at stake in this debate, confused about my status as an American and our role in the lack of success there.
But usually we were managing, somewhere between 10 and 15 people a day. Mainly our friends, maybe some of our friends' friends coming out and participating in a blockade. And we were kind of camping out there, and you can manage that pretty easily. But when all of a sudden you have thousands of strangers that you've invited to come out to participate in a protest, and hundreds of media outlets calling or on the site every day, I would do probably 10 interviews a day, some of them with Vancouver and Victoria, so the provincial newspapers and radio stations, but often I was talking to European and American and national radio and television stations. The interviews started on their timelines. So I would be sometimes doing interviews at 2 o'clock in the morning to accommodate their time. And then the blockades had to be in place by 6 o'clock in the morning before the loggers, obviously before the loggers came in, which meant we had to get up at 4:30 in the morning.
I remember not just being booed at a meeting at GE, but at Colgate, raising issues around South Africa, and people screaming at me, calling me names, and try to sit down kind of thing. But people on the dais, the CEO understood at that point of the game that, this is something we need to work out. We disagree right now on how to do that, but we're going to work this out.
This was everything all the time. Managing people, managing food for people, managing the protest, the media, creating the idea for how to sustain this. All the strategic, logistical pieces, just took every moment of the day. And the core group that was really managing this were exhausted after a month of not sleeping. And really, if we got 4 hours of sleep a night, that was a lot. And the pressures to just be on, to be able to give an interview, to react to something that changed in the moment and take control so that things don't fly off the rails. It was just a constant thinking, constant managing of people and events. And the potential for conflict in those situations gets really heightened.
I took the opportunity to interrupt another executive director of a major U.S. environmental group to plead and beg with Vice President Gore to call the White House and to use whatever influence he had to plead with the president that the U.S. would do more. And I pleaded with Vice President Gore to use the opportunity of the address to force all of these leaders to go further, to understand what was there, to understand a generation of young people around the world whose futures quite literally depended on the outcomes of that meeting. And, it was a defining moment, I think, in my entire life.